Three tech stories, two actually happen, one is completely made up. The catch? They're all written the same way, so you can't go by how it sounds. You have to go by how it feels. Let's go.
As we go through each story, think about two things: real or fake, and who's actually in the wrong here. No right answers, just your gut reactions. Let's get into it. If you're new, subscribe now. We do this every Monday. Two real, two truths and a lie.
And I'm Julianne Duffy.
And I'm Michael Duffy.
So let's go right into story number one. Am I the asshole? The algorithm knew I'd quit before I did. Okay, here's the situation. I work remotely for a tech company. Been there 3 years. Good salary, good benefits, good relationship with my team. But honestly, I was stuck. About 8 months ago, I was really struggling, not sleeping well, feeling burnt out, stuck in the same role doing the same work, feeling like I was stagnating. And stagnation is a prison. Stagnation is a prison that you're safe, but you're trapped. I talked to my manager about it. I told him I was struggling mentally, asked if I could take some time off to focus on myself and figure out what I needed. He was supportive. HR approved it, and I got permission to take Friday off for the next few months. Mental health is important, they say. They said. So started taking those Fridays. But during those Fridays, I also started doing other things. I updated my LinkedIn, added some new skills I'd learned, started looking at what else was out there. Not because I planned to leave. I just needed to feel like options existed, like I wasn't trapped, like I could choose to stay instead of feeling forced to stay. I also started a personal GitHub project of my own on my own time. Nothing related to work. Just something I wanted to build for myself. Coding in my spare time to remember why I loved this in the first place. I wasn't leaving, I was exploring, trying to get unstuck. Then I got a call into a meeting with my manager and someone from HR. Unexpected, no agenda. My manager had a document, not a performance review, something else. Data. She started reading from it. LinkedIn profile updated with a new technical skill that don't align with current role. GitHub activity increased significantly but shifted entirely away from company projects to personal projects. Scheduling time off increased 40% over previous quarter. Calendar shows declining numbers of meetings with direct reports and project teams. Slack activity down 25%. I was frozen. She explained our people analytic tool uses behavioral data. I also just realized I forgot to put the picture up at the same time because I'm reading the other thing. We're doing well. Here you go. There's your image. So pretend like this was there the whole time. Okay. So she explained our people analytics tool uses behavioral data to identify flight risk. You're showing clear indicators you're planning to leave. We wanted to discuss. I tried to explain. I wasn't planning to leave. I was struggling. I took mental health time I was approved for. I was just exploring options because I felt trapped. But the algorithm had already decided. Here's what happened next. It broke something within me. My manager said, "Look, if you're planning to move on, we should probably just go ahead and post your position. We have several candidates already interested, and it's better for everyone if we transition now rather than you leave in 3 months and leaving us scrambled." It wasn't an offer, it wasn't even a negotiation. It was, if you're leaving, we're firing you first. I tried to push back. I'm not leaving, but the conversation was already over. The algorithm had made the decision. They were just waiting for me to confirm it. I closed my laptop and sat there in shock. I thought about it, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized I don't want to work for a company that uses an algorithm to read my LinkedIn and my personal projects and my mental health days, and then use that data to force me out before I've even decided to leave. I gave my notice the next week. And here's what kills me. The algorithm didn't predict I would quit. It created the situation where I had to. It took my exploration, which was about getting unstuck, not about leaving, and turned it into self fulfilling prophecy. If they had never called me into that meeting, if they had just trusted that I was taking mental health time because I needed it, I probably would have stayed. Eventually, I would have felt better. I might even have asked for a different project or a promotion. Instead, they read my data like it was a confession, confronted me with it, and then pushed me out the door. So, am I the asshole for exploring other options while employed? Or is the company the asshole for surveilling their employees' personal lives and then using that surveillance as an excuse to cut them loose? And just so you know, Mike, I don't know what you're hitting, so be careful because you're making some background.
Oh,
Well, what do you think about that, Mike?
I'm
Do
not
you
hitting.
believe this one?
Well, it's super like realistic because I could bet that would happen because I feel like it happened to me when I was in medical. Right?
Yeah.
Because when I was in medical, I was in help desk, and that was when I was in university, right? And they had this type of tracking software back all that way, like 20 some years ago. And literally, me being help desk, I use the internet to research computer and software and hardware error problems, and then they use that against me, saying I wasn't efficient enough with my internet searches. I wasn't efficient enough, and that's what got
Mm.
them. That's the indicate when in my position, I was filling in for somebody on maternity leave. So when that person came back from maternity leave, they had to cut somebody, and they said they liked my internet browsing history the least amount. Yet it was all kosher. It was all work related. It's just like, oh, you over search the internet, and it's like, but was like the guinea pig. Everybody on my team was like, "Oh, Mike's the best at this." So I literally spent the most time researching stuff because everybody liked how I did it in the office, but that didn't matter. It was used
But the
against me.
algorithm data made you look
Exactly,
bad.
exactly. I had the most search history experience. Nothing bad, nothing against the rules. Just
You doing your job too well. You wanted to make sure you found the
I was like,
answer.
"Oh, hey, I'll figure this out for you. Hey, I'll figure this out for you. You're stumped. I'll figure this." Because it was literally true. It was a help desk position, and Google or Alta Vista or Dog, whatever search engine we asked Jeeves back then, like whatever search engines it wasn't just Google. Like there was like six that you used, and they were all different. So anyway, my bad. So they used it against me. Um, this is super realistic, and. Um, this kind of reminds me of your situation where you kind of had like constructive dismissal, right? So something's like, when you point stuff out and then it's like you against your manager and you were like, but you're like, I want at certain time, everybody, buddy. And then as soon as you ask for, you know, something different, then everybody's against you. So, um,
And it's one of those things where, I guess when we look at it, like this person was struggling with mental health and exploring options. So we go into this story, like, is I feel like that's super betrayal. Like they gave them the approval to take off that time and then they're using that data against them. Oh, you took 40% more time than normal, right?
or
So
you're working on your coding project more than your work project, huh?
exactly, exactly. We don't like that, right? And they didn't offer any type of counter. It was really like, well, and okay, now fair enough. I get that being that I did hire at one point that you don't want to be left in a lurch that somebody just drops and just quits on you and you don't have a plan. But at the same time, is using this data, to really kind of push him out because it really was that way, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I'm like, you know what? You just gotta be like, even back 20 years ago, I didn't realize that to be that super careful about what I did because I was like, oh, hey, I knew that they were like, in my situation, I knew that they were, um, cataloging what I was doing on the internet, but then I'm like, well, it's all work related. It's not like I'm checking personal email or shopping or like, I don't even think online shopping is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
back then,
You were
right?
working, but you Googled too much. You were
Against me, all the
researching
good
for
work I did
everybody else. You were researching for everybody else in the office, right?
was
So I
also like
guess
mail. It was just one of those things where it's like there was an easy excuse. Oh, look, your internet surfing's 50% more than everybody else. I'm like, yeah, because I'm the gopher in the company. I had to because everybody
yeah,
told
you
me.
were the lowest on the poll. Totem pole, you were just getting in, you had the position to
Then,
cover
but
marketing.
but in my situation, that meant it was easiest to get rid of me because like, oh, you're graduating from university soon. You should be able to get a full job. You don't need this like, tech.
That was reverse ageism back in the early 2000s, where you weren't the 30-year-old in the position, so you were let go and your search history
No,
was too big.
no children, no,
But
not
but
married, children.
going
Yeah,
back to the story, now, would you trust a company that admitted they were monitoring both your LinkedIn and your personal projects?
probably happened. Um, I'm sure people right now today are judging me based on what shows up on my stuff. So that's why I'm just gonna live stream multiple times per week. And then you can just judge me on everything. And if you choose, I don't. It's I, um. I don't think this person's the asshole. I think the company's the asshole. I don't think they did anything wrong. They
Yeah,
gotta prove
you have to don't touch the table with that computer, because 'cause you're making background signs every time you're touching the table with the paper.
that's the dogs growling.
No, that's not the dog's growling. That is paper against the table, and I can feel it every time you move. I can hear s yeah, right there, that was you
That's
again.
a complaint I have with you every single time you use this computer. Because I can
Well,
always
now
hear
we know
paper.
there's an issue. So, you're saying she's not that person's not the asshole. That is the verdict. The verdict overall, like, you're vulnerable. You asked for help. They read your vulnerability as disloyalty and pushed you out. That's not your fault. Little bit of the soft you are the asshole because you did job search while employed and while you were on the company device, right? So, but again, how much were they monitoring LinkedIn, and just their system just monitors it automatically. So even if they had updated at any point, right? So it is pretty harsh, but you did update it. It's almost like you have to be prepared that if they see something, that was also part of when I went on stress leave, as was being mindful of what I was posting and what they could see, because I did hear things come back about things that I had posted, right? So,
Yeah,
and
and yeah, I remember that because there was one incident where we ended up on TV and we're like, "Uh-oh, is this gonna be do you remember that?"
yeah, but that wasn't the incident. That
Oh,
wasn't it.
okay.
But yes,
Okay.
yes, I know that that wasn't the incident, but it is like that same thing, right? So, and then there was a little bit of like everyone's a little bit of the asshole, that they shouldn't survey like that. But then you did take approval for mental health time, but you did use it to explore leaving. So that is what they're saying. You did, even though you were stuck, you were looking, and so there you go, right? But the top comment, the scariest part is that they made a self-fulfilling prophecy. They weren't leaving until they proved that they couldn't stay, right? And that they created what they were afraid of. They didn't want to lose them, but they kind of created it themselves. So that is story number 1. So keep that in mind, and keep that again, is this real or fake? And a shout out to Mind Mystique. Thanks for joining us. And let's continue on. Unless you have any other comments on that, let's go into the second story. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, let's go. Oh,
Yeah, let me get the next image here before I forget and get halfway through the story and realize I did not show the story. Okay, I think I have to move the image because it's not showing fully, is it? Nope, perfect, it is showing. Okay, awesome. Let's go into story number 2. Again, keep in mind, do you think this is real or fake? Because at the end, we're going to reveal which of these stories is not true. So, am I the asshole? My cousin's DNA got me arrested. Okay, next one. I need to start by saying I didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't accused of anything. I wasn't even investigated for anything. I just got arrested. About 3 months ago, I was at home. Early morning, I got a knock on the door, the police, and they had a warrant. They said they needed me to come with them to answer some questions about a crime. I was confused. I have no criminal record. I've never been in trouble. I asked what crime. They wouldn't say much, just that they needed me to come to the station. If the station they At the station they showed me a file. Attached to my name was a crime from 2015, sexual assault, someone I'd never heard of, a place I'd never been. I told them that. I told them I wasn't there. I told them I didn't even know what they were talking about. They explained the DNA evidence from the scene, the DNA had been run through a genealogy databases. It matched my profile in the genetic database. I said I'd never done a DNA test before. I'd never submitted my DNA anywhere. They said, no, but your cousin did. Your cousin took an ancestry test years ago, uploaded it to GED Match. That's a public genealogy database. The DNA match led them to your family, cross-referencing public records, and they identified you. I had never consented to this. I had never taken a test. My cousin had no idea her test would make me searchable. I spent 48 hours in custody before they could verify my alibi. I was at work, I had emails, I had calendar records, I had witnesses. They let me go, no apology, no explanation of how this happened or why they didn't verify basic facts before arresting me. My cousin felt sick. She called me crying. She said she'd taken the test for fun to see where her family came from. She had no idea that by doing that, she made me searchable to law enforcement. I called the lawyer. She told me there's almost no legal protection here. I never consented to genetic testing. My cousin did. But because we share DNA, I'm in the system. Because I'm in the system, I can be matched to crimes. Because I can be matched, I can be arrested. The police didn't have to verify my identity carefully. They had a DNA match that was enough. Now, every time I see a police car, I think of those 48 hours. Every time I read about a crime, I wonder if I'm going to get another knock at the door because someone in my family tree took a test I didn't approve. I didn't do anything wrong, but I got arrested anyways. So, am I the asshole for blaming my cousin, or is this system failure that nobody's talking about? That's crazy.
Did you change the image?
I thought I did. That's the wrong image. But yes, I'm
And it's
struggling with
like,
images. Please, please. Remember, I'm not AI.
not AI. Real humans making real mistakes.
There we go. That makes more sense.
There we go. Because I looked at it, I was like, "Wait a minute, I thought we were talking about a DNA test," and
Sorry, DNA test.
I'm super confused how he would be I'm like, "What? Okay." And this is
It
super
is
scary.
confusing. It is so confusing. You're like, how did they link that from the cousin taking this DNA sample? And you go like,
But then I
can
would
you believe
that
this
would
one?
mean
Go ahead.
anybody related could be implicated in that crime.
Exactly, exactly. So if any person that you're biologically related to submits DNA, this could come back to haunt you, even though like it is the weirdest situation of where you're like, where do we even have rights anymore? Like, if your DNA gets submitted because somebody wants to know for fun, like, what we know these companies well, first off, which of those companies recently not recently, oh my gosh, what was it, maybe 2, 3 years ago, went under, and all their data was just sold off? So your DNA data that they got was sold off to the highest bidder. We don't even know what they're doing with it. You have no rights to it once it's sent off. So you don't even know what they're going to do. So you don't know how giving a DNA sample thinking, "Oh, I just want to know what's in my DNA," how much that could affect other people in your family, yourself, and create the weirdest situation that is completely unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm just like, as you read it, I'm just like, this is crazy. So it's scary, it's crazy. I'm still shocked by listening to that story.
Well, it also goes, it is shocking because I had to read it multiple times and like, "What?" Like, this is insane, this story. And it like, if you took a DNA test and are all your family now identifiable? Clearly they are, right? So if any people that were related to did this and if it in the system, that could come back on us if somebody with our some DNA do some kind of crime or, that you're related to. And then it also brings up a really good question of what's the difference between this and then facial recognition database? Because we know that isn't even always accurate, right? Because
Well, yeah, no, because I'm just like, I can't remember. That's why they figured out, like, when they did that's what is unique when it comes to recognition, right? Fingerprints are not unique. I'm not sure. It's like one in a thousand fingerprints are the same. So it used to be like the gold standard for, like, logging into your computer. But when you're a kid, when people facial, I think is not, because people in your family, if you guys look identical, they can unlock your phone.
well, and
So
they've proven it because I know, especially a lot of places, like I think in UK, they were really going under a lot of digital surveillance, and kids were messing with it with makeup. So they were able to confuse facial recognition by doing makeup, right? And just change, like whatever, and makeup can make people look dramatically different, right? So it's the
well,
same thing. Like we've got these tools that now law enforcements can use that are not
and it also depends on the how sophisticated it is, because if it's just comparing an image to an image, that's one thing that could be fooled by makeup. A lot of the new ones, it's like the distance between your, like, eye and your mouth and stuff like that. So it really depends on.
That's when you get those prosthetic makeup pieces, right? You're gonna put your cheekbones and
I'm gonna pad my face with a bunch of, like, facial process. But isn't that like, is it a what country is it? I know that what is it? In order to bypass the, like, CCTV, it's like, oh, we all put masks on or umbrellas, or there's always just a way to bypass this stuff. But in this
exactly, exactly.
case,
I'm gonna
but it,
say
but it,
prosthetic pieces of your face, just put them on as your makeup and totally, right? But
well,
it is scary because that goes into the same thing, like, what part of the DNA do they look at? How are they comparing it? How did they database and, and the the person that wrote the story, they didn't even do their basic fact checking. So the fact that they can just run on something without having to do any due diligence before they arrest somebody, it doesn't even actually surprise me based on the stuff that I have seen go on in North America, right? But it is really, really disturbing. So I would say they are definitely not the asshole. I don't know about you. What do you think?
I don't even know how they could be considered the asshole. Like, this is just like one of those, um like, not The Verge. It's, like, no, they're not the asshole. The system's the asshole in this one, because the only reason you get off is because you get an alibi that checks out.
Exactly, exactly. An email showing that
I
you
mean,
were
I'm
working,
thinking it's just
right?
like a
And you
fringe,
and
like,
you've
this is a
never been
fringe
to that
outlier.
area.
It's like a fringe outlier story. You're like, well, I don't know the ins and outs of DNA and what percentage, accuracy it was, blah blah blah, and then, really, your only saving grace is your alibi that checks out.
Yeah, exactly, and that you have no proof you were ever even there, right? Because they said they've never even been to that area, right? So, the overall on Reddit was not the asshole, clearly, right? You didn't do anything, you consented to nothing. This is a system failure, not yours. Your cousin made an innocent choice, and you paid for it. Then there was also comments like, "Your cousin isn't even the villain here, but you're not the asshole either. The system is clearly the
That's what I
asshole."
said. That's what I
Yeah,
said.
exactly, exactly. The top comment, this is already happening. Multiple people have been arrested this way, and there's almost no legal framework to protect you from it. The scary part isn't that it happened to her, it's that it can happen to anyone. Like, don't give your
There's no
DNA.
way.
If you know family members wanna do that stuff, tell them no. But, we also have things where people have sent, like, samples of, like, fruit and crap like that, and they get that, "Oh, it's part
That's
of
wh
this
that's why I'm like,
ancestry."
how accurate are those DNA tests? Because, I know it's a money-making thing, and if they don't have a good answer for you, they're probably just gonna give you blow some smoke up your behind just because they want you to feel like it was worth it. But then if they're not making enough
Exactly.
money as a company, they can just be sold off to anybody else, and then what nefarious things is that data being used for?
No, and as soon as we give them anything, whether it's your biometrics, because even with, like, we're talking about the facial recognition or the fingerprint or the eye scan, which isn't even accurate, right? We know that there can be other people's who match. That bothered me even before. I've never even put biometrics on my phone, so that you can't even cut off my thumb and get onto my phone. I that bothered me. This giving DNA to a company without knowing who they can sell it to and not knowing and understanding the fine print is actually kind of terrifying. But this leads us to another wonderfully terrifying story. Are you ready for the next one?
Oh, I'm all glued in. I see you got the image up, so
I
now
did that first. We're gonna win on the last story. I'm gonna win here. Okay, so let's get to story 3. So again, keep in mind if the second one, if you think this is real or fake, and now we're going to the third one, and let's get started. Am I the asshole? My period tracker was subpoenaed. Last one. I lived in a state where abortion is illegal. I lived here my whole life. I don't plan to get one, but I also use a period tracking app, Flow, because it helps me manage my cycle and plan my life around it. It's a normal app, millions of women use it. About 6 months ago, I had a miscarriage. It was sudden, traumatic. I went to the hospital. They treated me. They sent me home. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a detective. The state has a law that defines certain types of miscarriages as potential crimes. The hospital flagged my case because of circumstances. The police got involved. The detective asked me a lot of questions. When did it happen? How far along was I? Did I do anything to cause it? I answered everything. I had nothing to hide. It was a miscarriage. I was devastated, but it wasn't a crime. Then the detective asked about my medical history. Had I been researching anything? Had I taken anything? Had I talked to anyone about terminating the pregnancy? I said no. I hadn't researched anything. I wasn't trying to terminate anything. It was a miscarriage. He said, "We're going to need your phone records and your app data." I was confused. My app data? Why would they need that? A week later, my lawyer told me they'd gotten a warrant. They were how do you say that
subpoenaing,
word?
sub
Yes. Subpoenaing, I can't even say that word, my period tracking app. So I went back to Flow and gave them a court order, right? The entire history, every entry, every time I recorded my period, every symptom, every note I'd written. Flow complied and handed over everything. My lawyer explained that they were looking for evidence. If I'd been researching abortion, if I'd been trying to induce a miscarriage, the app would have shown my cycle. It would have shown if I'd been tracking something unusual. It would show everything. The entries were personal, raw. There were entries where was upset about being stuck in my body, entries about my anxiety, entries about my relationship struggles, entries about my mental health. All of that was now in a police file. It took 3 months, but eventually they cleared me. It was ruled a natural miscarriage, no crime, no charges. But the data is still there in a file available to if anyone ever needs it again. And here's what killed me. When I called Flow to ask why they complied so quickly, they told me their privacy policy explicitly states they will comply with law enforcement. It's in the terms of service. I agreed to it when I downloaded the app. I agreed to let the police have my period data. I just didn't know I was agreeing to that. My cousin asked me, "Don't you feel violated?" The honest answer is yes, but I also feel trapped. because I need the app. I need it to track my cycle, but now tracking my cycle creates a record that law enforcement can access. In a state where reproductive choices are a crime, using a period tracker is creating evidence. So, am I the asshole for using an app that collects data the government can access? Or is the system where your period tracker becomes a prosecution tool fundamentally broken?
Using technology. This is why it's why manual processes, tracking things down on paper don't get you into these situations. Because obviously, I wouldn't have thought about this because you would have been tracking it, but then obviously there's a journaling thing or something.
Yes, yes, there's a journaling app in those any that I've seen with
Oh my
cycles, there's
god.
usually, like
You know what's scary? Law enforcement getting track of anybody's ChatGPT arguments. Come on.
well, that's gonna be soon enough, I'm sure. They're already starting to
So,
do that, right? But this is, like, the whole thing is, like, oh my god, like, that you just start to unload that, and you're like, "This system is rigged." Like, I get abortion's not legal, but that's insane. So not only to add insult to injuries in this state, that she went through a miscarriage and the trauma of that, she's literally on the verge of, like, them trying to prove that she caused something to arrest her after this medical condition happened to her where she should be, like, because I know how it can really affect women, and especially if you were excited about it and all of that, the mental stress and healing from that to then be pulled through a possible charges, like, that's insane. It's just like just so many levels of whether you, like, believe in it or not, this is completely, in my opinion, the system overstepping in boundaries. Like, it would be different if they were like, okay, we want to see, I don't know. I still don't think it's right if they want to see her computer records to see if she was trying to find a way to have an abortion. But I guess that's when you're doing your
that's
VPN
probably
and
that
make sure
I'm
you
sure that
don't have anything tracked to your own self. Go do it on a public computer. Like,
but
it's absolutely insane. It feels like we're going backwards with this type of conversation.
yeah, but, in any instance, if there is any type of court case or whatever, the first thing the judge is gonna do in any of those situations is the authorities are gonna raid your office, raid your computers, take all your devices, and go through everything to see if it was planned or if it just, wasn't planned. Because if there
Yeah.
was planning, then it's meditated,
Yes.
right? So if they
And then
found that
and
she
then
was
and then you get
looking
into
up remedy or ways to do it, then it would have been meditated and planned, and she would have been charged.
with murder.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's where we get into the insanity of the entire, abortion. Then you get into this whole thing of the rights to choose whether you believe in it. Should you be held accountable and be thrown in jail if you decide to have an abortion? Like, what is
100%.
right? I'm not going to say I know like, for my own self, I know what I morally feel is right and wrong for my own personal self, but can I say that that's gonna be the right or wrong answer for somebody else? No. And since when can our society really make that decision? But then you get into things like the extent in Canada where they're even talking about abortion after birth. That is murder, but our government wants to here normalize that's abortion. Then you have these states where literally this person has a miscarriage and they're gonna go to jail or they're trying to put them in jail, right? So you're just this it's unpacked so much. I don't even know what words. I find in absolutely insane. But I guess in the end, like, do you own your period data? Obviously you don't. You don't own
No,
anything you put in an app. That is what we know, right? You don't own the information. If you don't own that app, in meaning you built the app and you have the service, you understand the service agreements, and you built it from scratch, you don't own it.
precisely. This is a lot of this number one reason why a lot of people don't like, they're I'm in technology consulting, and there's going to be people that I talk to. There's going to be people I deal with. It's like, yes, any convenient thing that comes my way, I'm going to sign my life away to it. And then the others are like, hey, I don't use debit or credit cards. It's cash only, no paper trail. down low, like back,
Yeah.
like it's just, and I see that every single day. There's just two different, not maybe there's even more than two different sides to
Well,
it, but I
there's
see a
there
I see a huge digital divide, and it
yes, yes. And we really have well, we do have pretty much 2 ends. You got the Luddites, right? They're not like, "I'm not gonna use technology, and I'm gonna put myself," they're probably not watching. Then you got the extremes where, yes, I'll totally sign up to everything. I feel like I'm kind of in between because I do have a natural disdain for technology, but I also do appreciate things that I can do with technology. So I have a natural disdain for technology and use it knowing that nothing I ever say they'll go through my chat history and decide I'm crazy, I'm sure of that. But as we determined last week, it's tied to you, so they'll just think you're crazy, Mike. So on that, the verdict, I'm assuming you're putting the same thing as me. Like I'm saying that this person is not the asshole.
well,
They did
like it would
nothing.
be one thing if she's
So I'm gonna
not.
say a soft a little bit that she did, like that naivety, not realizing your stuff can be taken by authorities. Anything on that you don't own can be taken and used against you in a court of law, right? That is
Yeah, oh man, because then I'll be like, oh, she's not the asshole, but maybe last week or the week before, I thought that in similar instances, maybe I thought that it's so grand, like some, um, it's not like because in this case, it's not that they, I I don't think she's the asshole, but then I don't think it's like this government, it's the state because it's not a man, it's this one's tough. You got good ones this week. Not that they haven't been good. I'm just
well, it is good, it's good.
super
Well, look,
stumping.
The Reddit verdicts were not the asshole. You were using a health app. You had a medical emergency. The system weaponized your health data. That's not your fault. That is actually true. And even though, and fair enough, like even if you read it and said, yes, they're going to give it to authorities, you're not thinking you having a medical emergency is going to go to the authorities.
Because it's a different story. Because the other one where it was like a health tracker for lower premiums, and then
Yes.
they went through something, then their insurance was pulled or whatever. It was just like this is like, oh, you're a murderer.
Exactly, exactly. It is
And
a
you're like,
little
what?
extreme. I feel like this is like
Okay.
exactly, exactly. Um, Also, there was a few people that soft, "You're an asshole," because the privacy policy was there, you agreed to it. We have to start reading what we sign. That's the uncomfortable truth. Just knowing that you're whatever you agree to start using, whatever information you're putting in there, you've right, you don't want it can be taken to be used against you, right? And then the top comment, the scariest part isn't that this happened to her, it's that this is already happening to other women. And they're not talking about it, right? So clearly they do this to other people. Jury trackers are now prosecution tools and we let them be. Like that's awful because you do want to know your cycle and track it. But then
But
I
yeah,
guess, I don't know if all period trackers would have the exact same thing. So this might be like searching to make sure you know what you're signing up to
well, it
and what
could
they're
be,
trying.
and it could also be like um a conspiracy because if there's certain states where whatever abortion is murder, and
Mhm.
then the establishment is pushing these on people in order to find the murderers, then
Well, and then it makes me think about the especially in the United States. Canada's system's not great, so I'm not saying our system's any better, but I know in the States it's very much profit driven. The prison system is profit driven. So then is there a conspiracy with we need to get people in the jails in those states. So we've got to find whatever tool, and even if it is using this period tracker that in other states no one would even think anything of it, but in this state, does this state need to fill up their
mhm,
prison cells, right?
mhm.
So it does go down into uncomfortable conspiracies. But those are our stories. So again, Mike, are you ready to summarize up the three
Yeah,
stories?
yeah, yeah. Okay. Three stories. Remember, three stories. One is completely made up. Story 1, the algorithm knew I'd quit. Story
Yep.
2, my cousin's DNA arrested me. Story 3, my period tracker was subpoenaed. I think I said that right. Word right.
There you go.
Lock it in. If you're new, subscribe now. We do this every Monday.
I'm just going to put it there to drop your guess in the comments or the chat. Let us know. Story 1, the algorithm knew you were going to quit. Story 2, the DNA, the cousin's DNA. And then story 3, the period tracker subpoenaed. So let us know. Okay, my Mystique is guessing number 2, is guessing that the cousin's DNA was the lie story. What are you gonna lock in your vote, Mike?
It's I think they're all fake, but I think they're like it's just like but they're so true and honest. I'm gonna go with 3 because come on, why would they like? I'm going with 3. That's far reaching. I'm going with 3.
Okay, drum roll, please, and I will bring up the answer here. And the lie was actually story 1.
Wow, that is wow. That's wow. That's crazy.
So people analytic tools are completely real. Companies absolutely have infrastructure to monitor your LinkedIn, your GitHub, your calendar activity, Slack patterns, and that it does exist right now. However, it is not well documented widespread that they're proactively using it to confront their employees, right? And that this hasn't necessarily been talked about, that even threatening them, forcing them out with algorithm predictions before they've even decided to leave. So, it's a real state that could happen. The story is not real, but I know, like, I thought it was unbelievable, the DNA one. I'm like, that is insane. And then the period tracker is just another level of, again, insanity. But maybe it is that conspiracy hole that we got to fill up those jails. So in some of those
Well,
states, we got to find you.
I'm saying because it would be like you if you were in that state and you went for like of course if they wanted to push that stuff and you just want okay, it's like tracking homeless people by just giving them free government funded cell phones, right? It's
Yes,
like, we'll give
yes.
you register, they're gonna track you and they'll know exactly where you are because it's the only way you can get logged into your. So I'm like, that's this conspiracy, but it's like this is what if the government wants to know something, they're gonna give you something for free for you to use it, and then they can just really keep track. Like literally with that app, they would know exactly where she was too because it's on her phone.
Exactly. Exactly. So that is episode number 5. Did you guess the correct story was a lie? You didn't, Mike, and neither did mine, Mystique. But did
No,
you?
because
Did you
because the
guess the right
stories are
one?
getting too good.
Oh, you just cut out. I think that's our sign that it's time to round up, round
It's
out. Oh, there we go. Round up and round out. So join us again. We'll be here, same place, same time, Monday night here at 7 Eastern. We are on at Too Real Am I the Asshole? So you can join us there. You can also join us with the Breathe In, Breathe Within, or wherever you are watching us from. So do make sure you subscribe so you're notified. So we go real every Monday at 7 p.m. with the Two Real, Two Truths and a Lie. So you can guess and find out, learn a little bit more, and enjoy this interaction and come and be part of it. Let us know what you think. And then join us. Don't forget to join us on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. for our YouTube University, which is now becoming our Visibility University. So come and join us there as well. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we head out tonight, Mike?
no, I wanted to make sure that if you're catching this on replay, up the next week, yeah, we can bring it up because we love reading comments and go and if you've got any story possibilities, like drop that stuff in the comment because these are getting really good and especially creepy. Right.
Just well, the point of this is pointing out what can happen to us
The
and that we
border,
don't live in denial to what is happening in technology.
we want to expose the borderline of technology and the fringe stuff that's out there, and that's precise. And this is the whole reason, one of the reasons we set up Visibility University as well, because there's so much technology out there, and you should be uh, harnessing it to do storytelling, right?
Exactly. 'Cause that's
And
what that always is the way you remember is through the stories, right? You'll
exactly,
always remember better than if you sat there and read a bunch of boring details. And that's why nobody reads the fine print because you're never gonna remember the fine print, but you will remember a story where somebody has messed up because they did not read the fine print.
you only read the fine print when you've already messed up, and you're like, "What did I miss?" And then you go through it, and you go through it, and you're like, "I'm." There's always
I
something
read
there.
it once, but did you actually understand what you were reading? No, because it was boring and you didn't think it would apply
Mhm.
until it did, right? So
Exactly.
make sure you join us next week because the line between the real and fake is getting harder and harder. And if you guess right, do let us know. I want to know if any of you guys did guess right. And on that, I'm going to sign out. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.